Hello everyone. This is the first entry into my Soulless series that will be uniquely separate from my normal content. This series will focus on cases of extreme domestic violence in order to bring light to an ongoing issue that is so prevalent in our lives. It will likely comprise episodes that are shorter and more straight to the point because of the amount of information surrounding these cases, but I'll do my best to bring you accurate facts in as many details as possible. I come across so many of these cases that I felt the need to add to the light being shed on the issue, and hopefully these cases will save someone from going through a similar situation. All that said, viewer discretion is advised. Throughout its history, many have claimed that America's justice system is corrupt, unjust, and unreliable. Today's case will certainly lean to those claims as we delve into the tragic case of Zlayiah Frazier, Robert Bray Jr., and Flossie Nicole Bray. Oftentimes, young women who get into relationships have no idea what their partner is capable of, nor the history of their very nature. And sometimes, when they become aware of it, it's already too late. Today's story takes place in the Motor City. Detroit has long since been known as the automotive industry capital of the world. It's produced a massive number of automobiles over the course of the last 100 years and is also known for its cultural impact in music, art, architecture, and design. In 2022, it was even named one of the world's 50 greatest places to explore. But beneath the rich history and booming auto industry lies a much darker environment that is no stranger to violence. From the historical race riots in 1943 and the 12th Street riot, also known as the Detroit Rebellion in 1967, to the violence that became commonplace in its projects like the Brewsters and King homes, Detroit has seen its fair share of dark days. And July 10, 2022 would see one of its darkest ever. Zlayiah Frazier, age 22, was a mother, business owner, and hard worker who made her way trying to forge a better life for herself and her 1-year-old son. She shared the parenting role with her child's father and then boyfriend, Jonathan Welch, age 23. The two had been a pair in each other's life since 2014. Those who knew both Zlayiah and Jonathan from outside appearances looked to have a loving relationship and said that when they found out that they would be bringing a son into the world, they were both excited and overjoyed. Jonathan welcomed the idea of being a father, it seemed. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and everything that glitters isn't gold. On June 2nd of 2022, the once loving relationship between two young high school sweethearts took a turn for the absolute worst. The police would be contacted by Zlayiah, claiming that her boyfriend Jonathan had just violently assaulted her. Prosecutors, working closely to the case, said that Welch was accused of waking Zlayiah up at 3 a.m. in the morning and demanding the passcode to her phone. When she refused, he began strangling his girlfriend with an extension cord, poured gasoline on her, tortured her with a red-hot spatula by burning her arms, and then assaulted her with a pole sexually and attempted to set her genitals on fire. According to Zlayiah's written report, all of this happened with their child sleeping just in the next room. After a 4-hour assault, Frazier was finally able to break away and run to the neighbor's home, where she was covered with a blanket. Welch reportedly then attempted to kick down the neighbor's door in an attempt to drag Zlayiah back outside, but she was successfully defended by the neighbor as they contacted the authorities. Jonathan Welch was charged with 7 crimes, including torture, assault, and criminal sexual assault. Now you may be thinking that if he was charged with 7 separate crimes, then that should have been the end of it. No judge in their right mind would look at this list of offenses and allow this monster back out onto the streets with the Commonwealth. However, that's exactly what happened. Instead of being locked in a cell without bond, he was issued a $100,000 bond, or 10% by the magistrate, Don White, according to the record books. Within days, Jonathan Welch's mother, Flossie Bray, will go down to the police station and post the $10,000 needed to bond Jonathan out of jail. He was released with a GPS tether in order to stay with his mother while he awaited his trial for the assault on Zlayiah. This was obviously a severe lapse in judgment and a complete and utter disregard for the safety of everyone affected by the rage of a clear deranged individual. And on Sunday, July 10th, just 2 days after being bonded out by his mother, Jonathan Welch would finish what he started just a week prior. Around 8:10 p.m., Harper Woods police were called to a home in the area of Kenosha. The 911 call had apparently come from someone who was being held captive inside of the home. That person is now believed to have been Zlayiah Frazier. When police arrived, it was clear that Jonathan had completely lost it and barricaded himself inside of his mother's home. As his rampage inside carried on, his mother was able to run out of the house and make it to a neighbor's house across the street. As she banged on the door frantically, the neighbor answered, and as she began her frantic story about what was happening, the neighbor noticed a kitchen knife embedded into her back. The neighbor, now realizing the severity of the situation, asked her who had stabbed her. She answered, "My son. He's stabbing everyone in the house." Flossie was only able to utter a few more words before eventually collapsing onto the floor. Meanwhile, as the police surrounded Jonathan, who was still inside of the home, his reign of terror continued. In what would become a grueling 7-hour-long standoff and include a shootout, Jonathan Welch would eventually surrender and crawl out of the front door of his mother's home after setting it on fire. Police couldn't have possibly known of the horrors that were awaiting them inside, but they were about to find out. As they rushed in to detain Jonathan, who was now lying face first on the street pavement, authorities entered the home after Welch was escorted off to the hospital to be treated for smoke inhalation. What they found inside was the aftermath of carnage at the hands of a soulless monster. As investigators searched throughout the home, they found the bloodied bodies of Jonathan's 70-year-old stepfather, Robert Bray, and the mother of his child, Zlayiah Frazier. Both deaths were reported to be a result of blunt force trauma. And as investigators continued to search the outside area, they would find Zlayiah and Jonathan's 1-year-old son lying in the grass. Witnesses said the child had been thrown out of the window with no clothes on by his very own father before setting the house on fire. Days later, after his arrest, Jonathan Welch's mother would tragically pass away from her injuries in the hospital, bringing the death toll to 3.
The third victim of a tragic family attack in Harper Woods has died tonight, and the suspect is facing a slew of charges.
The incident unfolded inside a home on Kenosha earlier this month, just days after the suspect was released on bond. 7 Action News reporter Kim Russell spoke with the victim's loved ones.
A man was arraigned here at District Court in Harper Woods on the 3rd murder he is accused of committing while out on bond. The loved ones of one of his victims are speaking out, hoping her story saves your life or the life of someone you know.
Zlayiah wanted the best for everybody. She was a true sweetheart. Zlayiah loved her son. She loved him so much. That was her world.
Right on time.
In this video, Zlayiah Frazier sees love as his younger sister Zlayiah sings karaoke with him while holding her now 1-year-old son, Sammy.
When I see you. That's it. I gotta get.
One of the last videos I got with my sister, we did like a karaoke night.
One of 7 siblings, Zlayiah knew how to make others feel important. She was on the homecoming court every year at Warren's Lincoln High. Her mom, Trina Harris, says the 22-year-old was studying, inspired by her brother who fought cancer and her sister with cerebral palsy.
That's why she wanted to become a nurse.
Now this man, 23-year-old Jonathan Welch, is accused of murdering her, his stepdad, and his mom at a home on Kenosha in Harper Woods on July 10th. He appeared in court Wednesday for arraignment on the 3rd murder charge after his mom died in the hospital. It happened just 2 days after he got out on bond, accused in June of assault, criminal sexual conduct, home invasion, and torture. The victim, Zlayiah.
That he held her hostage for hours. He beat her. And when he got tired, he rested and beat her some more. What he did, torture. He poured gasoline on her. He wanted to kill her.
My sister was fully naked when she ran out the house and ran to a nearby neighbor house to get help. How do you let somebody out that did that to somebody? How do you let them out?
And she was ready for her new beginning.
This was the worst possible scenario. A true nightmare. Many outsiders had questions as to why Zlayiah was at her boyfriend's mother's home in the first place. But family who knew Zlayiah have stated that her relationship with Jonathan's mother was very close. Whatever the reason, her presence there shouldn't have resulted in her death. It's clear that Jonathan Welch had the maturity of a child, unable to deal with the rejection and the word no. An even bigger question is being asked as to why the magistrate judge would allow a loose cannon with a strong history of domestic violence out on bond at all. Sadly, we may never get those answers. Welch is now being charged with 19 counts, including first-degree murder, and this time there is no bond set. But as the judge said, it's too little, too late. What we now know is that the light that once illuminated so brightly from the ambitious future of Zlayiah Frazier was snuffed out by a heartless, selfish, and soulless coward. May her story be an example to others to be mindful of whom you choose to share your life with. Sometimes the signs aren't there. Other times, they were there all along.
Because she was talking about the future a lot.
They are speaking out, hoping judges take a more in-depth look at details of domestic violence cases before offering a low bond. They also hope to inspire domestic violence victims to leave sooner.
I want women across the world to know that abuse is not love.
Abuse is not love.
This time, Jonathan Welch has no bond. He is scheduled back in court for a preliminary exam on August 31st. In Harper Woods, Kim Russell, 7 Action News.